I'm not ready. Hi, boys and girls. Weather report for January 21st and the second day of a real presidency, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. God, it felt good yesterday. It was just so refreshing to see him just get to, I mean, he went right to work and
Mhm.
and they had a press conference where the press secretary actually answered questions for the press instead of insulting them.
Right, right.
It
Now, I
was amazing.
expect, as with any political situation, there to be lies and deceptions, and I think we're going to have to really stay on Biden to get anything progressive done, just a little bit.
Oh yeah,
But it was so good to hear an adult make a speech.
yeah. It was just amazing. I just sent you a fucking link, Athena. Uh, it's in chat. It's in chat. Midnight. Why do you think I do this? It's because I can't
Molecular
email.
work, molecular alchemy. Are you at work?
Yeah, I'm emailing about 7 people as it is, and and every day I forget somebody. So there you go. There's your link. Your link. Anyway, so last night we had David Neff and Dr. Dan talked about the mitochondrial DNA, and the David Neff had gotten a letter back from the guy that actually wrote the paper.
I didn't see it, Speed. It took a while. It took a while for it to show up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry for yelling at you then. Okay, my bad. But anyway, David Neff and Dr. Dan. David Neff got in touch with the actual person who did the paper that Jensen took his data from, and he admitted that they were not trying to do anything other than a pedigree study, and they didn't even check to see whether it was somatic or germline mutations, and that makes a hell of a difference in the data. And you cannot use pedigree studies to determine a molecular clock rate. And the creationists will come back and say, oh, pedigree studies are something we can observe. So that's observable science. Whereas when they develop a molecular clock rate, they necessarily have to make an assumption based on fossil or geological evidence about how long ago the two branches split, right? So molecular clocks were never considered highly accurate, at least not accurate enough to say for sure when man developed. But the creationists do insist that it be accurate, and the only way they can do that is to lie about the pedigree data. Well, then on Logical Maddox's channel, or Mad Ducks, SFT came on and did a little damage control, and he went on one of his Gish Gallops claiming that Dr. Dan and David Neff were just so full of shit, and that they didn't even have a point, and they didn't really criticize his model, and they went on. And there's 6 hours of goodies from Logical, Plausible, and Probable last night, including a few really wonderful zingers from our favorite philosopher, Danny, who I hope shows up here today.
Hold on. Your favorite philosopher.
Oh, okay. Our favorite resident philosopher, Danny, who said that a natural selection is bullshit, and on John's stream. And of course, the creationists almost stood up and applauded him, with his bullshit idea from Fodor, who nobody accepts anymore. And I think Danny has some splaining to do. And there was another part, and I just want to show this short part, and then we'll get on with talking about cell machines, if that's okay. StreamYard. What the fuck is happening now? Oh, come on. If you don't click on the tab, StreamYard can't find the video, which is really kind of irritating. But then Danny came up with this. I will play it. It's a short one.
Yeah, I watch anime, so I'm not trying to be so derogatory towards him. But it's a little anime boy that
Isn't this great? Even when Danny's not here, we can hear Danny.
What's his name? anyways, it doesn't matter. He was
Speed,
making the
why are
claim
you torturing
that
me?
people are just most younger creationists hold to
Foreskin,
or push
foreskin.
younger creation.
What?
Why are you torturing me with Danny's voice? It is you splitting.
I saved this just for you. I knew you were coming on. I saved this for you. Okay.
I'm just fucking around. Go ahead.
Okay, shut the fuck up and listen for a minute. Okay.
I watch anime, so I'm not trying to be so derogatory towards. But it's a little anime boy that what's his name? Anyways, it doesn't matter. He was making the claim that people are just most younger creationists hold to or push younger creationism to like control, to kind of implement religious control or dominance in the culture. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Why would you exclude the fact that they're just very confident in what they believe? You could grant that I could grant that they're wrong, right? But why would you exclude the fact that they really believe what they
apparently we're all in it for the money. That's what
I just could not believe.
people were saying today about me. So if I'm in it for the money, I'm doing a really bad job.
Okay,
And,
okay, right, Will.
and secondly, we are bad faith actors. Apparently, we don't really believe.
Hey, what's up, Bob?
It's all a lie.
It's recorded. The hyenas came after me. There were 6
Okay,
of them, but
that's it. Okay, Nathan, you're on camera. Did you know that? Molecular? Did you want to be on camera?
Also, Leo's in the chat.
No, I'm talking to Molecular Alchemy. I don't know if he can hear me or not. Okay. Okay. I didn't think you wanted to be on camera.
I was going to try it.
Oh, that's okay if you want to be. No, that's fine. But it's up to
I could hear
you.
you.
Huh?
I could hear you backstage, but you couldn't hear me.
Right. Oh, okay.
Actually, it's probably better if I don't, because we'll have a better signal when I do chime in.
I thought you were worried about anonymity. So. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew you were on camera. So, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. I could actually go on camera, except I have my lights on and it's kind of loud. But so anyway, Danny was making the point that they could actually really believe in young earth creationism. And I've never denied that they do, but I still think that they get into it because being a small, tiny splinter group that has the right idea is exactly what cults do. They have a very small group and they try to exert control and judgmental control over the rest of the groups who have the wrong idea. And I think it's a personality type that attracts them to young earth creationism.
Lucifer Almighty, SFT is a Poe. I suppose. I don't know.
And
he said so himself, right? He's not in it for the money.
Right. And it doesn't apply to all creationists because a lot of people are brought up in it. And, it doesn't apply to all creationists, but it applies to the most vocal ones, the ones that go out and get a YouTube channel and start being all arrogant and attacking Erica and Dr. Dan the way they do. That's the other thing. There's an odd thing about why they have singled out Dr. Dan and Erica for their greatest disdain, when I'm the one that will call them idiots and a whole bunch of other stuff. But no, it's Dr. Dan and Erica. It's because Dr. Dan and Erica go at them in a much more methodical manner than I do, in a much more scholastic manner. And I think that threatens them. They're scares the shit out of them. So I don't know. Anyway, that's all I had. And there's a whole bunch of gems here that I think I'm going to bookmark and go through. They had some idiotic things like at one point, okay, I think it's called Laetola fossil footprints, which I don't know too much about, but Erica does. And one of the brain trusts said, wait a minute, if those were humans wear shoes. So they're talking about fossils from like, I don't know, 300,000 or 1 million years ago. And he's suggesting that they were humans with shoes. Like, what did they go to the Mall of America and buy shoes in Africa or something? I don't know. The Mall of Africa and buy shoes like 300,000 or 1 million years ago. that was kind of a ridiculous. I mean, it goes to show, and throughout this entire thing, they drop these little one-off things, about out of place fossils and this little picky thing and that little picky thing. And John Maddox is always saying atheist talking points. And I don't know if he knows what a talking point is. A talking point is actually, if I throw out something and I want a discussion, I will come up with a talking point, right? But he calls it like, little one-off memes, which is projection to the max, because that's all they have. They have these little one-off things.
Well,
doing.
if I can address something really quick, Lucifer Almighty, they may not deserve her kindness, but she's not going to stoop to their level.
That's the other thing, is that Dr. Dan and Erica are much more polite than we are, and they just go after them. I think maybe we should take our cue from Dr. Dan and Erica, but anyway, so that's about all I had.
I happen to think they're both classy people.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
When I grow up, maybe I'll be half as classy as them.
Yeah, when I grow up. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
I mean, aren't you like 90?
Pretty close, yeah. Yeah.
Now, are we done talking about what Danny said about what we said about creationists?
What? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to point out, like we talked about earlier, is that there are kind of both and situations here. Yes, we have creationists who are just really profoundly confident about their position, and they also happen to be evangelicals who want to pass laws that restrict freedoms for other people who aren't in their camp. So it's not an exclusive thing. Maybe there is a segment of creationists and young earth creationists to boot who are evangelicals who don't want to outlaw gay marriage, or who would have not had it come into practice in the United States. But I think that's a very unlikely overlap. I think most evangelicals would love to see gay marriage go away. I think they would, of course, want to ban abortions, make all abortion illegal, and thus controlling people. And an overlap to that is creationism, which is just nothing but
controlling science.
Propaganda for people who just must, for some reason, take the Bible literally.
Yeah.
So yes and no, it's not all creationists, but I think the overlaps there are pretty clear.
Yeah, there's and if you want to have a cult with a following and you want to have a strong community, you will find something that's different than anybody else, and then you will die on that hill. You'll erect a flag and you'll stake out your territory. It's like that island experiment they did with, I think they took about 30 or maybe 60 kids, and they put them on an island for a month, and these psychologists were observing them. And they just kind of let them figure out their own government and their own, groups. And they divided into two groups. And one group believed that you should swear, and the other group hated people who swear. And I think it was on the 20th day of the experiment, they had to cut the experiment short because they were afraid the kids were going to kill each other. And so they naturally divided into two camps.
Can you email me that study? That sounds interesting.
I forget what the name of it was, but we could try to use the Google and find it. Let's see, kids on an island.
Yeah, the thing about that Google is, if anybody has half the gumption that David P. Neff had for contacting those scientists like he did, we would learn a lot more, wouldn't we?
Yeah, well, I hope you haven't forgotten a couple of days ago when I mentioned the John Maddox thing, when I contacted one of the scientists. I mean, I don't want to blow my own horn here, but
no, that's fine. We need more people contacting scientists. The more, the better.
And I also reached out to Encode, and I reached out to Jensen with no results. Anyway.
Okay, so I am the lazy ass motherfucker. I'm sorry, the lazy
Okay.
person who doesn't contact people. Maybe.
I can't find it. Kids swearing about lockdown. Kids swearing, cursing. Okay, island experiment. I will try to find it for you.
All right,
I would
thanks.
obviously be in the cursing camp of that group of kids. Were I a
Course.
kid?
I mean, you're an
Children's-
adult. I don't know. Just ignore that. It was
Okay.
that machine concept of a cell.
Yep. So we have a paper here from 2019 by Daniel J. Nicholson about, is a cell really a machine? And Scott has read a lot more of this paper than I have. I was supposed to read it yesterday. I was busy. I didn't read it today.
Is a
I had to
cell
go through-
really a machine? Interesting.
Mhm.
I
So
want these papers.
I will let you read parts of this, Scott, if you want. Do you have it in front of you, or can you read it off the screen?
I have yours in front of me, and I do have the PDF. But yeah, just trying to kind of give an overview. And like I was talking about years ago, I read a book called "The Structure of Scientific Revolutions" by Thomas Kuhn, and I know at the time he was like the biggest thing out there, but he came up with the idea of the paradigm, which is this mental picture of a particular scientific topic of study that just kind of goes off in your head, and it inspires a whole level of and direction of research and writing and more research and more experimentation, and things like the atom, being like a solar system, that did it, and then the atom being a cloud, that inspired research. Just just those little mental pictures that you become almost religiously devoted to.
Yep.
And
I mean,
although
there's a reason. Sorry to interrupt you, but there's a reason why the term scientism exists, because some people do attach themselves into science so much. That when a new discovery comes out, they're like, no, that can't be. There's, you know what I mean. So there is something to that. You know what I mean? Where people attach themselves to an idea, even even into scientific evidence against it. You know what I mean? Like something could be scientific, but
and that's what you talked about, was how when science is so successful by following a particular paradigm, and this machine concept, this mechanistic and deterministic concept of the cell, it was a pretty fruitful endeavor for quite a while, because of the research, results that it garnered for people. And so what is happening now is a scientist like Nicholson is now saying, hey, that really doesn't take us very far anymore. It's not a really good or really complete theoretical framework to go to. We need to look at the cell as a living system, and rather than being deterministic, it appears to be stochastic in that it follows, kind of a probability distribution. Like a particular protein would have several functions, and the context of where it is and what's happening in the cell might determine what that function is. And he goes on to show in various ways why the machine concept of the cell should become passé and isn't as fruitful as it once was. And now this stochastic idea, although I don't think he named, and it could be just
I
because
don't know.
He doesn't name a paradigm. He just but he gives several scenarios where a different look at the cell might be in order.
Was it Max Planck who said that?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
No. Hold on. Science advances one funeral at a time. I forget whether it was actually Max Planck or doesn't matter. But yeah.
Yeah, but there's something a little bit maybe ironic that I want to point out here, and that is that John Maddox's entire argument is about the new information paradigm and the extended synthesis in biology, which started popping up actually around 1950 and started getting more popular in the 80s and the 90s. And then around 2010, and then in 2016, the Royal Society did an entire issue on it, on information in the cell. And this is exactly what they were talking about. Now, John Maddox interprets it as being just the opposite of what they intended. He is saying that it's more of a machine than stochastic. But the actual idea behind autopoiesis, which means self-generating, that's the word, autopoiesis.
Right.
The idea behind that, and the idea behind Terence Deacon and his revolutionary book, was to back away from that paradigm. Oddly enough, Maddox got exactly the opposite message that they were trying to put out, that we can no longer use these diagrammatic or machine-like ideas of a cell, that it's a system that has hierarchies which we have to consider from the top down and the bottom up. And we also have to consider what the concept of biological information, which is not anything to do with a machine or a computer, but rather something a lot deeper than that. And this paper goes along with that. So I mean, this isn't a new paradigm, that
Right.
or this isn't a new group. There have been people, in fact, Dennis Noble, the guy that did the $10 million thing with the Royal Society, he is actually very much a part of this movement too. So anyway, the parts that I found in this that were interesting was, however, our progress in translating this ever-growing repository of information into deeper theoretical understanding of what living systems are and how they function as coordinated wholes has been far less impressive. In other words, we have all this information about the cell now, and we have all and genetics, but we really haven't come up with a new integrated theory. And let's see, not so much in the complexity of the cell as in an interpretive framework, that we need a new interpretive framework. And the main interpretive framework in molecular biology is mechanism. And they call it the machine conception of the cell, or the MCC. And then after that, I don't have any bookmarks. So
Yeah, I think what he's contrasting is, and it's not like a really good paradigm, but I think it's a good way to contrast it. Self-assembly, as in thinking of the assembly line of a factory, versus self-organization. That is, and it may be picking at words, because I know that, like, David Deamer uses the phrase self-assembly a lot in that other paper that I showed you from astrobiology. But self-organization implies, a living system, fluidity, and the stochastic nature of what you do, what a part of the cell will do changes based on what's going on in terms of, like, the energy level in the cell, where it's located, and then of course the ratchet diagram there of energy transport. It depends on Brownian motion rather than reaching out and grabbing and pulling yourself along a pathway.
yeah.
Is Molecular still with us? Can he comment on this at all?
I forget, Scott. What do you do again?
I'm just a little programmer. I
Oh,
don't.
you're a low programmer, but a programmer nonetheless. Like, what language do you know?
Lilliputian programmer, is that?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm a Lilliputian. But no, I do not have scientific training. I wish I had all that training. I am watching Nick Zentner's Geology 101 class out of Central Washington University, just to learn a little geology. But yeah, biology, I've had I had a semester of it, maybe two, in college years ago.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. By exchange, an apparatus using or applying mechanical power and having several parts, each with a definite function and together performing a particular task.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's just
with that
that's just
definition,
the top result on Google, but a place to start. I don't think many people would reject that definition. except for the brain trust who want to smuggle in, the idea of a machine when we're looking at biological systems.
Right, and I
But-
think that's why they're holding, digging in so much, is because it basically serves their teleological argument that they want to make, is that a watchmaker, or a watch implies a watchmaker, therefore a machine in a cell implies a great machinist or engineer.
Well, I mean, okay, look, just because the term, the word machine can apply to the cell, doesn't mean there's a fucking designer. You know what I mean? From that definition, I could see how a cell would apply, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the other problem is that cells don't work that way. They don't work like machines at all. And if we keep thinking in this machine paradigm, we're going to miss the greater point.
And
Like
I think,
cancer.
yeah, and I think the idea too is that while the machine concept of the cell was very fruitful for several decades, it's becoming less and less fruitful towards a more fuller and complete understanding of the nature of the cell. I think that was his point.
Yep. So Colonel Suji, who I don't know, does not see the danger of creationism or basically pseudoscience. But okay, if somebody starts putting together an idea about bleach curing COVID, and they start a website and they get a whole bunch of followers, and then they start finding scientific papers and cherry picking and backing it up, and they build thousands and thousands of subscribers that are listening to them, and then they start preaching it every morning from the pulpit in church. Would you consider any of that dangerous? I mean, is there any danger to society? Should somebody perhaps raise their voice and say, "Whoa, wait a minute, let's take another look"? So you don't see, he doesn't see it as dangerous. So.
Yeah. Also, there have been attempts at different state levels to teach the controversy,
And they're still doing it. Yeah.
teach about creationism, so that both sides, as if creationism is like half of the story and the other half is evolution, and they're both equally valid, and that's just not true. So politically, it's getting more attention than it deserves. Plus, in the Supreme Court, basically, if you have a sincere religious belief that you should teach it, there's nothing to stop you, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I
Wait,
find
define sincere though.
Yeah.
Danny.
I'm just screw you. Never compare me to Danny again.
Well, every time you say the word define. Also,
I mean, it applies here, Speed. Fuck off.
I found.
Well,
Go ahead. Do you want him to define sincere?
no, I didn't want to interrupt you,
No.
Speed. Go ahead.
No. Please do interrupt. Well, okay. Let me make this point about teaching it from from the pulpit. I've seen YouTube videos, and I've tuned into television shows where the preacher's actually talking about evolution instead of scripture. And then I heard from a relative in northern Minnesota that happened in their church. So it isn't just a YouTube phenomena. It's happening in churches across the fucking country, because northern Minnesota is not that kind of a place where you would hear that kind of stuff. And what are they talking about dinosaurs and evolution for in northern Minnesota on Sunday morning at a goddamn church? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, does it? So it is dangerous. It's infiltrating our culture right now. It is infiltrating us. So,
And this goes along with that. I was gonna point out to the Colonel, he's using the term creationist, and conceptually, you can have someone who's a Christian, devout Christian, who believes in creationism, but would never be included in the same group as like the Brain Trust, like young Earth creationists, or a subcategory all of their own. And even among those young Earthers, you have like the Brain Trust in particular, who focus on biochemistry, cell biology, topics we're all interested in. Some of us actually work in the fields. So it's, to respond to the Colonel, it's not, we're not necessarily refuting creationism as kind of a philosophical idea, because if you believe in it based on faith, I don't agree, but to me that's not as damaging as those who are trying to supplant evolution, abiogenesis, like we see with you know who.
Did you cut out? Oh, you muted.
Yeah, that
Why
was
did you
Ian.
mute? What? Oh,
I may have cut out without realizing it, but that
No,
was all
you-
I was gonna say.
you muted a couple times. So, okay, that's why you muted. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, it's pretty easy to discount these guys as crackpots and say that they're not involved. But then I've been, of course, I'm pretty close to this YouTube little micro community, and we don't have a hell of a lot of subscribers as a result. Even they don't. But then on the other hand, there are some of them that have a lot of subscribers, like 250,000 or something like that. And it's, you want to be careful with these guys, not to underestimate their influence. They've had an influence on, or they tried to influence what ends up in textbooks, which is fucking crazy, Anyway,
They're slimy and dishonest. They think that their opponents are that, so they kind of project those bad habits onto their opponents.
Yep.
And do really underhanded things. Speaking of followings, we were talking yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, about Mud Fossil University. He's about to break 100,000 subscribers, and he's got, if you go to his channel, I think he's got well over 10 million views on his videos. And he doesn't deal entirely with creationism. He has plenty of other crackpot ideas.
Yeah.
But they're influential, and we're a counterbalance force. You guys are. I'm casual.
With only 230 subscribers, I'm not making much of a dent in it. Apparently, we have to turn up our game. Well, Erica's doing okay. She's got, 5K subscribers already or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So her and Dr. Dan are doing pretty good.
Can you
Anyway,
make cartoon speed?
What's that?
Can you make cartoons?
Can I what?
Make cartoons.
Can I make cartoons? No,
Yeah, because Erica, doesn't she do all her graphics and stuff?
she does. I don't know how the hell she does all that. I mean, that's a lot of
amazing.
work. That's a lot of work. My problem is I can't focus on one subject. I'm trying to hit them all at the same time, and hence I hit none. which is kind of why we're looking at a paper today. So mostly this second page of the paper is just going through all the different paradigms that led to this idea of the cell as a machine. Machine analogies and metaphorical references to locks, keys, gates, pumps, and motors and engines continue to pervade the technical literature. And then there is a group of people here. As a result, critical reviews have begun to appear that explicitly challenge the reductionist and deterministic presuppositions of mechanism. And the reductionism in biology does not work. You cannot reduce it to simple biological laws. Molecular alchemy, you want to push back on that or comment on that? That biology is a little bit different?
I apologize. I didn't hear all of it. I was responding to the Colonel again.
Oh.
He has now raised. He's now saying, and I'm kind of getting suspicious about this person, that maybe it's somebody we know in a new account. But he said, if you're concerned about threats to science and academia, have you spent time going after people like Bill Nye, for example, instead of nobodies on YouTube? And I asked, how is Bill Nye a threat to science?
Does Bill Nye suggest we use bleach or anything like that? Or does he ever push back on all of science? I share your concern for this guy. I do not know the Colonel. So
to respond, so you're referring to this highlighted section and kind of the countering a reductionist view, mechanistic view of cell biology.
Yeah, the idea that we can reduce biology to laws. And that's part of where I wish Danny, with his idea that natural selection is how evolution works, that you could reduce it to the Fisher-Wright theorem or any particular law in population genetics. No, you can't. We model things and we try to model as closely as we can, but you're never going to reduce biology to a law like you can reduce the motion of objects. You know, the billiard balls, you can reduce pretty well to physical laws, to Newtonian mechanics. You're not going to pull that off with biology. You could certainly find some things, and you're going to learn some things by looking reductively at a system. But overall, if you're trying to understand what life is and how life works and how life proceeded from 4.5 billion years ago to now, you're not going to be able to understand it with a set of law-like principles, is what I'm saying. So I push back on reductionism. Okay. Reductionism is it puts you in a sort of a hole or a paradigm, like Kuhn says. Surprise, surprise! I own that book too.
It's a great book, a must read for anybody interested in science, and certainly for anybody involved professionally in science. So it's this paper arguing, it seems like the unhighlighted section, that the paper is actually arguing against that argument, where the highlighted section indicates that there's a counter to the mechanistic or deterministic reductionist view.
That as a result, critical reviews have sprung up starting in 2000. But really prior to that, the biosemiotics people and the information people are actually and the extended synthesis, they're actually in the crowd that is pushing back on this machine paradigm. And they're looking to more systematic approaches to how a cell works, sort of thing.
My attitude is the more the merrier. If you're wanting to approach this from a new angle, by all means, but look at the successes of the reductionist mechanistic, progress we've made over the last 150 years, and really over the last 70 to 80 years, because technology has combined with it.
Yeah, you pray for one more subscriber. Erica used witchcraft. Stay away. This is Otangelo Grasshole, our favorite. Let's see. Okay, so Scott, from here on, I haven't read the paper.
Okay. I'm having to write a text to one of my coworkers. Well, kind of the overview I gave is pretty much it. I think if we went to 119, trusting that the user would, or the reader would read the rest of it, that to me that gives the heart of kind of what he's arguing for. But yeah, I don't think it ever said that the mechanistic model was always wrong or always bad. It's just that you can only learn so much through a static, deterministic view of things. That he's basically arguing for the fruitfulness of a less mechanical view of things. He mentions kind of as an alternative the Power Stroke engine, the Power Stroke method of energy transport, versus what he calls a ratchet model. And all the technicalities of it, it's kind of hard for me to say, but one depends on Brownian motion, and one pictures it as kind of a exertion model where the protein pushes the transport of the energy through. See, it just kind of fell. I'm unable to. There's the ratchet model to enunciate some of these processes because I'm not a biology major. But what I see him doing is basically saying there are, if you look at the cell differently as a living system, then rather than a machine, you'll get more fruitful results out of your research.
Yeah, here's the table where he, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Alt-Z, maybe I can Alt-Z that. Here's the power stroke table where he talks about the difference in the Brownian ratchet, I think, which he explains a little more. Let's see. No coordinated motor movements back up the crucial step, whereas with a motor, you've got the guiding piston. The inside, the cylinder guides the piston as it moves, and so it's a guided mechanism that drives the power stroke. Whereas in cells, there is no guiding mechanism; it's more of a Brownian ratchet. Is what I got overall when I scanned the paper. So I don't know.
Also, I don't know that, and somebody else would have to answer this question for me. In the more machine, the machine concept of the cell, which is what he calls it, MCC, do proteins have multiple functions, or are they looked at as each one having their own function, their own task, and that's how the cell works? Would you know that, Molecular?
Say that again.
Well, one of the points that the author Nicholson makes is that depending on the context of where a protein might be in the cell, or where some sort of construct might be in the cell, that determines what function it performs. And of course, that sort of gives me the impression that people who take a mechanistic view of cell biology would tend to think that they would just have one function within the cell, and not multiple functions.
I think I follow. I think I understand what you're getting at. I was trying to come up with an analogy. It would this protein or this object in the cell. It would be like having an adjustable wrench in your workshop. You use it to, in its normal function, but the same adjustable wrench in the kitchen utility drawer, your wife pulls it out and uses it to hammer nails or to prop something open. It's the exact same
tenderized meat.
Exactly. Yeah. Cell biologists, molecular biologists, we're absolutely aware that what the way I would describe it is subcellular localization. So is protein X, let's call it, is it located in the nucleus? Is it located in the cytoplasm? Is it in some other compartment of the cell? Subcellular localization is important in its biological function, but maybe not the most important thing. That would probably be its amino acid sequence, its native conformation, and what kind of basal functionality it has just based on its 3D structure and whether it's an enzyme or a structural protein. Does that help?
There's temporal localization too. So across time, like proteins that have an effect in the zygote may have an entirely different effect in the adult form of the organism. And it depends. And when you look at development, the same proteins basically are at play in very different phases of development. They'll start to structure the cell from the anterior to the posterior end, and then from the proximal end of the leg to the what the hell's the other end? The extension of the leg. So they have an effect across that field. So I mean, there's all sorts of temporal, particularly in development, proteins have different functions as they go up, and they're quite complicated. And it's also very stochastic and field and gradient like rather than mechanistic and machine like. So the answer to your question is yes, proteins have different functions depending on where they are. And then the other thing, if you slightly modify a protein, or if there are proteins that pseudogenes that don't do anything now, just with a couple of little tweaks, they could have some effect on some pathway, or they could create a parallel pathway, which isn't important in the organism right now, but may be important in a different environment going forward. So, and that's kind of how evolution works. That's the neutral model, or the neutral idea, that all these neutral mutations eventually can have function. And that's how biochemical pathways form. That's how they're created. So, but we have this table here. Key differences between the two conceptions of cellular architecture on the left and the standard view, derived from the MCC on the right, the alternative view. And then they have static structure and stabilized process. Can you speak to that one, Scott? Stabilized process? No?
Oh, was that inside the table, stabilized process?
Yeah, that's one of the headings. So,
stabilized process.
Yep.
He talks about kind of this give and take between equilibrium and low. Let's see, equilibrium would be high entropy, and then low entropy. So I think it has to do with pretty much thermodynamic states inside the cell. But
yeah, the contrast
I
is,
don't have anything specific to say about that. One thing I did want to point you to eventually is that diagram on 121, where
Yep.
where he kind of shows the stochastic nature of gene expression, and contrast it with the graded response, which would be part of that machinist concept.
this figure right here.
Yeah.
Concentration of the inducer, assay of cell populations, graded response and stochastic response. Graded versus stochastic models of gene expression, raising the concentration of an inducer. There's a gradient that I was talking about, results in a proportional increase in the expression of the relevant gene in an isogenic population of cells. If gene expression is measured by assaying the total amount of our mRNA or protein produced by the population, it's not possible to distinguish between stochastic and graded transcriptional responses, as both are consistent with population level observations. Okay, so just doing an assay alone would not tell you, allow you to differentiate between the two processes, I think is what he's saying. Single molecule methods, however, have recently enabled gene expression to be studied on a cell-by-cell basis. And this has revealed that most cells exhibit an all or nothing stochastic expression pattern, which is interesting. So we have an all or nothing response.
And looking at the figure, you've got the first series where it's a graded response where all the cells are responding in the same way to the same magnitude, right, and arriving at ultimately the same response. And then in the stochastic response, you have random cohorts or subpopulations responding at different time points, but leading to the exact same final point.
Yep. Yeah, and this is an expression of a molecular switch. but it's not like it's not anything like a light switch, unless well, maybe one of those rheostats where you turn it up slowly, but I don't know. Not really, because you would turn it up halfway and all of a sudden it turns on, because it actually has a flip over point where it expresses and turns on hard, that sort of thing. But that happens in embryogenesis, the development of an embryo. Across a gradient, you can have up like 5 different grades. They call it the French flag, where if you're 20% of that protein, and you will get one response, one Hox gene will turn on, and then you have 20 to 40, another one will turn on, and 40 to 60, and it just keeps going. So you can end up with these. In fact, that's how insect segments develop. Basically, well, those segments are a little different. They have this effect of turning, like something will turn on and then it will turn off the next part, and that will turn on the next part and turn off the next part. But as far as how those segments are differentiated, it has this gradient sort of effect, so that the posterior end will end up having legs and the front will have a head or antenna or whatever, based on some of this stuff. So, but in order to do that, if you imagine mathematically modeling embryogenesis, you would not end up with a computer program. You would end up with something more along the lines of a probability machine. So, I don't know. Oh, what's going on in chat, guys? You guys are silent today.
I had asked you earlier if you could link that paper at some point in chat, or just remind me what the title is. I wanted to pull it up as you're going through.
Yeah, I was going to do that.
I think the title is "The Cell Really a Machine" by Nicholson in Journal of Theoretical Biology.
I actually linked it in yesterday's video instead of today's video, but I'm going to try to go over now. Let's see here.
But for me, it was a really good introduction to what's going on in cellular biology.
Yep. Let's see. So yesterday's video was the weather report. Okay, let me go grab those and put them in. Evidence and reasons, praise. Okay, cell really a machine. I got it right here.
It's also a good cautionary tale against being too in love with your paradigms.
Yep.
But then again, I guess if you weren't a true believer, you wouldn't have found some of the fruitful discoveries you might have found about the cell during the time where everybody's going crazy over the mechanistic view of it.
Yeah, well, this is this paper is what, a review?
Yeah, it's kind of a review, a comparison and contrast of different views of the cell.
It's called an article, I guess. I don't know what the meaning of that
there's
is.
different types of articles.
Yeah, I'll put that in the description paper for today. It was in yesterday's description, but I just put it in today's.
Now, I don't know how true this is, and this may be just an impression I had that maybe I'll be able to go back and find a quote, or maybe I won't. But I think he also was suggesting that sometimes people make mechanistic conclusions about the cell based on things that they can't directly observe. Because it also tied to the mechanistic view was also methodology of how you analyze cells, like staining. Don't they tear apart like populations of cells in order to figure out their parts and pieces and their anatomy? Or at least maybe didn't they in the past? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Because like I said, I'm learning as much as I can, but I don't have a whole lot of background. So if some of the things I say about it show a misunderstanding, please let me know.
This is the.
Can I just say something that that I'm just gonna say I really like this picture.
Yeah, it's a wonderful picture, but I wonder what the reality is.
I mean, isn't this supposed to be like a replica of what actually goes on in the cell, or did I misread the? Because I remember seeing a video of this.
Oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
but it's not a. It wasn't a movie of what's going on in a cell. It was a Disney-esque animator's interpretation of what's going on in a cell. If you could actually see the cell, I don't think it would be as clean and machine-like as they're depicting it, but maybe close.
Yeah, looking at this image and remembering the animation, I mean, this is kind of what we visualize, but much less chaotic. Which you can see the reason they would make it less chaotic for educational purposes. But you have dynamic interactions where this this motor protein might bounce off of the, you know, the
wait,
globule.
what's actually happening? Sorry, I was interesting. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, water molecules may have an effect, like they do in protein folding. They're finding out that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And the reality is if we were able to visualize this actual activity, you probably wouldn't even be able to see the motor protein itself walking, because what you have, this is an ATP dependent reaction. And because of that, water is absolutely essential. And all of this is happening in water, which is one of the things I like to point out when people use factories and machines, you know, as an analogy. How many factories do we know of exist entirely and depend upon water as their substrate or the matrix that they exist in? But there's probably all sorts of helper proteins, you know, shuttling ATP into the active sites, converting used ADP back into ATP. So I'm sure this is probably a reductionist view.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the point of the author. I haven't actually read the figure description. If it kind of needs to be, and it seems like this is what the author is ultimately arguing, is that it needs to be a marriage of both the mechanistic reductionist view and the holistic view. And he used another term up here at the top. Vitalist, organicist.
Andrew is going to argue at SFT tomorrow. Oh boy!
Really?
Well, look at the chat.
Oh Jesus Christ! Are you going to do it on SFT's channel, Andrew? Did you fall for his shit?
I mean, okay, look, Andrew's going to do fine. Okay, he's a smart cookie.
Yeah, I know. But SFT is insistent on having it on his channel because he's trying to build his following, and he has his little group that appears in chat, and a few of us will pop in for a few minutes here and there, but SFT will not basically go out in anybody else's channel where he is not vulnerable to our chat and basically our scrutiny. And he's a coward in that way, a coward and a charlatan, because he's only interested in building his little creationist circle jerking cult. And I have decided, fuck them. I'm not going on their channels. So anyway, but everybody does what they want to do. So, but it's the only way you can get a conversation with SFT. If you agree to his terms. The only way you can get a debate with SFT is if you agree to his terms, and then you go over there and you put up with waiting sometimes for 45 minutes because they're all late. And it's all their timing, their moderation, their control, their chat. And I'm tired of them. So I don't know. I'm not happy with them, as you can probably hear in my voice. Yeah, I'm not sure where he goes with this. I'd have to read the whole thing. But anyway, Erica is going to have a show at 3:30 today, right?
Yep.
So we're going to wrap up by 3:30. But I think we should look further into this paper, and I should actually try to finish reading it. And
I could definitely stand to go over it again, but
Yep.
yeah, I don't think it's what's it called whenever you're just making a fight and trying to disparage your opponent. It's not that kind of paper. It's just proposing that we look at the cell a different
Yeah.
way.
it has nothing to do with creationists or any
Yeah,
of that.
this has nothing about whether God exists. It's just, hey, here's what's going on in cell biology, and I think the reason why we started watching it, had you had this paper for a while?
No, somebody just gave it to me last week. I think it might have been you.
Was it Leo?
It might have been Leo. Leo found it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at one point he was looking for information about whether or not the cell is a machine, and this was one of the papers. But it's really interesting in bringing up the kind of the landscape of what's going on in research, or maybe what should be going on in research. But yeah, it's just about biology. It's not about the creationist versus evolution debate at all.
Yeah, here's a little part here. In fact, the energy ATP hydrolysis responsible for generating the power strokes that allegedly propel motor proteins forward is only about an order of magnitude larger than the environmental stochastic forces that are permanently buffeting them. In such conditions, moving mechanically and deterministically is like trying to swim in molasses or walk in a hurricane. So that would be a more accurate depiction, is showing one of those reporters who's trying to report on the hurricane when he's out there and his hat's flying off and he's holding his shirt.
Yeah, and you see a highway sign just kind of fly by him.
Yeah, fly by him, almost hit his head. Yeah, that sort of thing. We've all seen those images.
Steve, if you're gonna summarize kind of the conclusion of this, I don't want to scoop you, but from just our analysis in this discussion, and I kind of jumped to the end, the last section 6 conclusion. I like this paper, and I saved a copy because I actually want to read the whole thing, but I kind of took this for granted that others thought the same way within the field.
Yeah, I think
let me read a short section. This is the beginning of the conclusion.
Okay.
Does somebody need to say something? Go ahead.
No, most biologists already know this. I mean, this new paradigm is already upon us, and it's kind of what's going on. Where's the conclusion? Do you know where it starts?
It's section 6.
Page 122.
122.
I would say anyone who has an active laboratory and actually goes in and tries to conceive of an experiment. You can have an elegantly designed experiment, but then you actually try it on organisms and you realize there's a lot more at play. But let me read this beginning of this last paragraph if you want to highlight it, or the first paragraph of the conclusion. I have argued in this paper that molecular biology is currently undergoing a fundamental shift in its theoretical conceptualization of the cell. The conventional mechanical, reductionistic, and deterministic view is gradually giving way to an understanding of the cell that emphasizes its fluidity, plasticity, and stochasticity. And I'll stop there. I mean, there's more good stuff there, but Steve, there's kind of been a gap in our discussions over the last few months. But several months ago, when we were talking with Speed behind the scenes, I remember describing exactly this, and in conversations with you, that they create almost straw mans of biochemistry, because in my understanding and the way I view what's happening in the cell, what's happening in subcellular compartments, is much wetter, much more chaotic, much more error prone than certainly what you would see by like Autangelo, who tries to paint a picture where you have assembly lines, with this precision. And there is precision in life, don't get me wrong, but there's it's almost like the field of arts and humanities. You know, some of the major themes and perspectives from that field are being included, where you're looking at it in a different way. We're not biochemists, aren't bioengineers. We're kind of chemists and artists at the same time.
Yeah, the thing is that if we look at it just mechanistically in reduction, you know, from the standpoint of reduction, we may miss something important, and that is the resilience and the interaction of that cell with its environment, which may be other cells or maybe, you know, something outside of itself. And there may be something deeper going on, or systems that we can look at in a different way and figure out something else, and figure out that the cell could not stay alive if it were just this little machine doing this one thing. That the way it stays alive is because it is soft and it is affected by all these other factors. And then a new kind of machine happens. It would be like if you had a factory that produced that automobiles. God, I hate car fucking analogies, but I'm going to do it. If you had a factory that produced automobiles that was responsive to its market in a way that was direct, right? So that when as the market changed, different cars would come out every day. You know, one day you'd get station wagons and then switch over to sedans, and then you'd have an SUV or whatever. But we might miss something important about the entire system and how autopoiesis works, how self-generation works, and how cells, you know, interact with their environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that's a great way to kind of describe this. But I would argue, and I suspect that the author makes the same argument, that there's still wide and profound utility to the mechanistic and reductionist view.
Hell yes.
In some ways. Go ahead.
It's how we learn it. I mean, it's how we have to learn it, right? Because
that was exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yes, it's how you pick something apart. The thing is, you never want to mistake the finger for the moon or mistake the reduction for the reality. You know, the reduction is always how we're learning it, how we're understanding it, how we're conceiving of it. And you always want to be careful that you don't miss something because you've gotten stuck on one pathway, that sort of thing. And I think that is a solution to understanding evolution, that it is this absolute mess of this puddle of mud that basically keeps bumping into each other and creeps along through time and sort of shapes itself to its environment in a very unique way that a machine
sorted, selected, and filtered by natural conditions.
Yeah.
You said it, the reductionist is essential for learning, and I just wanted to expand on that. Not only in like a high school biology class is it essential, but in a peer-to-peer, high-level, state-of-the-art research manuscript, we are forced to use kind of reductionism to communicate it to peers or other experts. So not because they're learning as they're reading your research article, they're learning what you did, why you concluded what you concluded, whether they agree that the data supports that conclusion or not. The utility in reductionism is its compatibility with communication.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We don't, just because we switch paradigms, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We keep all that is good about the previous. Basically, you don't switch paradigms as so much as you have concentric and large paradigms, one eating the other. Just like natural selection was subsumed by, ideas from neutral theory and epigenetic effects and environmental effects. And now, we have what we're calling the extended synthesis, which a lot of people don't like. How about you, Molecular? Are you familiar? Dr. Dan does not like the extended synthesis so much. I'm not entirely sure.
Honestly, it's outside my wheelhouse.
Okay, yeah.
I can't speak to it with authority. That's his particular field.
Yeah.
Mine's medical research, and I do recognize I take discoveries and findings from that field for granted.
Yeah, I have
and we benefit from in a myriad of ways.
I have a book behind me called The Extended Synthesis, and I think I can't remember who the authors are, but they're quite famous. And I'll be damned if I can, having read many parts of the book, I'm trying to get my head around what they're actually suggesting, and I haven't successfully done that yet because it's that weird. It's that much of a paradigm shift, that sort of thing. I forget who wrote that. Geez, where is it? It's got to be in my top layer. I don't know. I've got 50 books behind me. I'll never find it. Anyway, I was kind of hoping Andrew could come in and tell us about his SFT collaboration that's happening. And we're kind of waiting for him. Anybody else got anything for today? But I think let's spend more time on this paper, just a little more time on it, okay?
Okay.
And I'll go through it again.
I just hope Andrew finds a neutral platform to debate on.
No,
SFT.
if you're going to talk to SFT, you have to go to SFT's house and put up with
Maybe
it.
he knows what he's getting into. Maybe he's slick enough and savvy.
Oh, he's slick. He's fucking slick is what he's all about. Last night, the way he handled Dr. Dan and Erica's thing was slick. And we might get into a little bit of that tomorrow. I was hoping Danny would come here to explain his bullshit about natural selection, but he hasn't shown up. I don't know where he is today. He's missing.
Oh, Donnie boy.
Danny
Sorry,
boy, yeah.
Danny boy, yeah. So what's going on? What are we doing? What's going on? Who are we?
Well, we're going to end at 3:30. Erica has not put up a video yet. I haven't gotten a notice for it.
It's up there.
It is? Why can't I find it?
I don't know. Have you got the little bell rung on her?
I do.
channel?
So I probably got it on my phone. So Andrew, what's going to happen?
The prodigy is here.
Huh? What?
I said the prodigy is here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm no prodigy.
Oh, you're a prodigy. You're our only hope, Andrew, for the future.
I mean, he's not kidding. That's the thing.
Nope.
Are you discriminating me against my age?
No.
I'm discriminating against my age, as we all know. I'm going to die soon. So
No, speed. You're gonna live forever. Okay, I just won your books, but you're gonna live.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, Midnight. I just got back from the doctor, and they said I'm healthier than hell. And there's my dizzy spells are a result of rocks in my head that have become loose in my inner ear, and so I'm suffering from vertigo.
Yeah, he did 84 push-ups for the doctor. So
Yeah, 84 push-ups. Well, I was doing. I used to be able to do 20 chin-ups, like when I was 48, and lift my body up and extend it straight out. And I'm having a fuck of a time doing one pull-up now, but I'm working on it. So.
Speed. All right, you know what? Let's continue because because you have to go look at Erica stream.
Okay, Andrew.
Yeah.
So what's happening with SFT?
I guess we're having a chat on phylogenetics.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
At what time?
10:30 EST.
Okay, 9:30 outside. That's the other fucking thing is like, does he stay up all night?
Yeah, the only emails I've gotten from him have been at like 1 a.m. or something.
Yeah, does he ever sleep?
I mean, okay. Does he? From what I hear, he's got a wife and child. Does he just spend all day, like doing streams? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, does he have a job?
Should we turn him into child services or for?
I mean, why? He's not well. He's not Von Hilton, as far as I know.
Well, he's neglecting his kids, man. I don't know why in the fuck I do not get notices on Google Chrome.
Whose
But I
dog
did-
is that? It's so sad to hear him cry.
Oh, what a
Oh,
poor
To hear
no.
dog.
a dog.
Oh no, you guys can hear him.
Yes,
What's he crying
Oh.
about?
Oh, he's just hungry.
he's so adorable. The
Yeah,
dog.
Yeah, he's adorable. He's in the pain. He's a pain in the butt though.
You know, I kind of cry when I get hungry too.
Yeah, me too.
Ah,
I do.
I'm wondering if I should make macaroni tonight.
Oh yes.
Or
Kill
pasta.
yourself. I gained 11 pounds since my last doctor visit last year.
I mean, I've lost weight and gained it and lost it and gained it and lost it.
Yeah.
Ah,
So I do have one thing in my favor though.
What's that?
SFT let me create my Cody.
he's so. The dog is so.
SFT let me create my own slideshow if I want to present my position that way.
Okay.
Ah, that was okay.
So
Edgy,
yeah.
do you think you're ready? I mean, it's standing for truth we're talking about here, but do you think you're ready?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to listen to what he does, and we'll go over it tomorrow. But then they'll do an after show, and they'll talk about destroying you and all this bullshit. So
Yeah, probably.
anyway, you're going into the lion's den, and you're falling for a shit, and I'm opposed to that.
I
And
know.
you're your own man, so the only way you're going to get a conversation with him is to go over there because he's too cowardly to show up here.
Yeah. He needs to control the room because he's an alpha, I guess.
Well, I think they love, along with that, he makes about $150 every time he goes on the air. So that helps too.
But no, he's not doing it for the money. By the way, it's SFT. I'm kidding. Of course, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for the money and to convert people. Let's be honest.
Okay, I think what the dog is whining about is that you're going on SFT.
Exactly.
Possibly.
Anyway, okay, I will definitely tune into that. And
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. When is it? What time is it? What time is it?
9:30 Central, 10.
10. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot we're in different time
Hey,
zones.
hold on. AM, PM. What are we looking at?
So Andrew, are you
At night.
PM.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I talked all over everybody. Are you going to do an after show, Andrew?
I would if I had a channel.
I can do that for you.
Jesus. Oh my God.
That dog is really upset about this.
I know, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he's
great.
very impatient.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Now I miss my dog. Great.
Oh,
You wanna do
I'm
it?
sorry.
Want to do an after show?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
So
I'm glad you guys are enjoying this.
What is it? It's upset because it wants to eat?
Yeah, he's just they eat it at a specific time, and
Oh.
if they don't get that exact time, then
Yeah, they'll let you know. I mean,
That sounds like more and
and
more
you
like
can't
every
wait 10 minutes. And
yeah, my cats. I've got a bowl. I had these big bowls for my Saint Bernard, and I fill it with food every couple of days, and they eat whenever they want. And I don't know, it works. And my cats are healthier than hell. My sister and some other people, they do this, feed them at a certain time and give them 1 cup or whatever. And not only are they always whining, but they're in the vet all the time with some kind of fucking bladder problem or they're on special diets. I don't know. I just let the animal eat what he thinks he should eat.
we have two dogs, 1 cat, and some amount of fish. I don't know exactly how much.
Oh, you have an unspecified number of fish.
Yeah, they're
Okay, let's see. Oh, Molecular Alchemy put a link out. Oh, and he left. No, you're still here. Somebody left. Who left?
I just went AFK for a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Midnight left.
Oh, Midnight left. Yeah, he probably just got bounced out. Okay,
He's probably sad because he misses his dog.
yeah.
So, Speed, there was one thing I want to ask you. Do you know of any like free software programs for building phylogenetic trees?
Yeah, Mega.
Mega?
Yeah,
Okay.
in fact, Cell
Mega?
Cordova.
MAGA?
Is it Mega? No, Mega. I think it is MEG.
Yeah, Mega.
Oh, I thought you said MAGA. I was
No,
kind of
not Mega.
concerned.
You don't want to look that up on Google. That will be sadness. Only sadness will result from that. But yeah, that one I downloaded it and I haven't run it yet. But you have to do like an alignment, and there's another program for doing alignment, or maybe you can do alignments. Molecular Alchemy might know more about that. But there's also Mega, Clustal, our studios. Oh, I've got our studios, I believe.
Like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show, or what my plan without giving out too much is, for one thing, to show SFT how phylogenetic trees are constructed and how using those same methods, designed objects don't fit into a unique tree.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So on Erica's channel, there is a video where she goes through it in some detail. And I think Erica and Cell Cordova were the ones that went through it. And they show you how to use it. And then later on, Cell Cordova on Evidence and Reasons, he goes through it with this other guy. I forget what his name is, but this creationist that he picked up that's always on his channel. He went through it again, and they have examples of how to do the alignments and how to run some real simple phylogenies. And I've been meaning to get back to that myself and walk through it and do it. But we should do that some afternoon, try to figure out how to use that.
Yeah. Does it let you like create random sequences?
What's that?
Does it let you like create your own sequences basically? Like you just type
you
letters?
can put in any sequences you want. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can create a phylogeny with there's a couple of different algorithms. I've got a bioinformatics book here that goes through some of them, some of the most common ones, and explains them. But it's probably not something you're going to get done today, but you might. Let me see if I can find Mega for you. God, where the hell do I have it? I have it under some folder here. We're going to go offline here pretty quick. Maybe I can take a look for it, see if I can find it.
Yeah.
The website, let's see, Mega. Let me do a quick search. But anyway, I think we should end. Erica's going to start up in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
So we're going to end the broadcast. Colonel Suji left. I don't know. I think he was from the other camp.
I think it was Colonel Shady.
Colonel Shady. Yeah. Anyway, let's see what else did I want to point out. Okay, Molecular Alchemy, you posted that site. Gunther Witzeny. Yes, I recognize him and Eugene Koonin. So, but I'll try to put that in the description. There's a site. I haven't looked at it yet, Molecular. Did you want to talk about it?
No, just
Okay.
it was one of those things where previously I was like, oh man, I need to share this with Speed, and it kind of came up in our discussion.
Oh, the third way.
It's interesting. If you Google the third way, you get like a political action group, or I couldn't remember what it was called, so I Googled the fourth way, the fifth way. So there's a lot of interesting things out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the link's there.
Okay,
Thanks
next
for the
week
invite.
knows a little bit about this. Okay, we're gonna go off live. So anyway, goodbye, Cruel World. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Or no, tonight. I think we're gonna do an after show. So we're ending the broadcast.